Life had never been easy for people like us, those with little to spare. That day, we were reminded of our modest circumstances in the most painful way. I couldn't quite process the sharp words coming from Rachel, my sister-in-law, though she was often quick to voice her displeasure. This time felt different. Rachel had hidden away a gift meant for her daughter, Angela, and now it seemed she had casually dismissed the very present Angela had poured her heart into. Rachel criticized the gift in front of Angela, belittling it as if it held no value. To Rachel, anything not from a well-known brand wasn't worth considering. There, scattered on the floor, were the earrings Angela had so carefully chosen, now being picked up by other children. Angela stood motionless, shock and sorrow filling her as tears began to fall. At just 10 years old, the sting of rejection was more than she could bear. The air grew colder when my mother-in-law laughed at Angela's tears, and Rachel looked on with what seemed like satisfaction, but their cruel amusement was fleeting. I am Shirley, a mother juggling a part-time job while raising my precious daughter, Angela. Approaching my 60s, I reflect on how Angela, now 10, came into my life. She was born from my first marriage, a union that ended tragically when my husband died in a car accident, leaving Angela fatherless at just 5 years old. Grief overwhelmed me, but I was determined to provide for Angela. I worked as much as I could to make sure she was cared for. Years later, I met Anthony at work. Despite the challenges of being a single mom, Anthony's kindness and support for both of us made all the difference. He became a pillar of hope and love in our lives. At first, Angela was wary, but over time she warmed to Anthony, and our little family began to take shape. Despite the hardships we faced, we found strength in each other, our love growing amidst the harshness of the world. Anthony entered our lives gradually, first as a friend and then, without even realizing it, as a father figure. Angela, sensing his genuine care, began to open her heart. Before long, she was calling him Dad, her joy and comfort evident in every moment we spent together. Anthony, with openness and vulnerability, shared with us that he was infertile, but his love for Angela was unwavering. To him, she was his daughter, and he cherished our family just as it was. His inability to have biological children did not affect his bond with us. In fact, it deepened our appreciation for the love and care we shared. Whether tending to Angela when she was sick or simply being there when she needed support, Anthony showed us all what it meant to love unconditionally. His actions reinforced my decision to stay by his side, and together, we embraced the joy we had found. We moved in together, and when Angela was 10, we married. My father-in-law welcomed our union with open arms, doting on Angela and forging a close bond with her. But my mother-in-law's attitude was different. She viewed me with suspicion and often blamed me for every household mishap, from dishes missing to a speck of dust, accusing me of negligence. The criticism wasn't limited to my mother-in-law. Rachel, Anthony's older sister, also frequently targeted me. Living nearby, her visits were common, while our family's home was farther away, making our visits rare. Rachel, hungry for attention, would often use these visits to flaunt her material wealth, knowing full well the contrast between her luxuries and our modest lifestyle. Our roots lay in Minneapolis, far from West Virginia, leaving us isolated without the support of extended family. My part-time job and simple lifestyle meant that designer brands and luxury were beyond our reach, a fact Rachel was eager to exploit. Despite these challenges, the true strength of our family lies not in material wealth but in the love and understanding we share. Rachel also worked part-time, but her husband's substantial income allowed her indulgences I could barely imagine. While she flaunted designer outfits worth thousands of dollars, her children wore simple, store-bought clothes. This stark contrast underscored our differing values. While Rachel spent on herself, I focused on investing in Angela's happiness, prioritizing her joy over expensive adornments. The constant negativity from my mother-in-law and Rachel was draining. Angela, so young and innocent, instinctively distanced herself from their presence, retreating to her room to watch videos whenever they came over. It pained me to see her caught in the middle of our adult conflicts, but even so, she'd formed her own cautious views of them. The support I needed came from within our family. My father-in-law never hesitated to voice his disapproval of Rachel's behavior, often stepping in to diffuse tension. Anthony, too, had little fondness for his sister, often recalling her selfishness from their childhood. Since we moved out, Anthony had limited his visits home, primarily to give his parents time with Angela and to avoid unnecessary run-ins with Rachel. Interestingly, Angela and Rachel's children got along well, a bright spot that reminded us of the importance of keeping their budding friendship separate from our adult disagreements. With Anthony and my father-in-law's support, we maintained a civil distance from Rachel, making our infrequent gatherings manageable. As Angela grows older, I expect our visits to become even less frequent, requiring just a little more patience on our part. I reassured Anthony and myself that we could handle it, together. The holiday season presented a new opportunity for interaction, an invitation to a Christmas party at my in-laws' home, organized by Rachel with help from my father-in-law. He made sure to include Angela, knowing how much she looked forward to such gatherings. Since the event fell on a Sunday and both Anthony and I were off work, we decided to attend with Angela. Like many holiday parties, this one promised a gift exchange, a tradition we couldn't avoid. Understanding our financial constraints, we planned to contribute a thoughtful gift, even if it wasn't extravagant. But Rachel, ever bold, had included a list of preferred gifts with the invitation, setting expectations far beyond our means. Still, we resolved to attend with grace, focusing on the joy the occasion would bring Angela. Rachel's wish list for the children's gift exchange was packed with high-end brands and expensive items, each priced over $200, definitely not the kind of thing you'd expect at a children's party. It was clear that Rachel's children didn't typically wear such luxury items. In fact, the list seemed more suited to Rachel's tastes than to her kids. Choosing to avoid her lavish expectations, we encouraged Angela to pick out something that felt special to her. After several shopping trips, each filled with excitement and an ever-growing list of possibilities, Angela decided on a pair of earrings and some colorful erasers, totaling around $75. The simplicity and thoughtfulness of her selection stood in stark contrast to Rachel's extravagant list. As the party neared, Angela's excitement grew. We kept the atmosphere light, focusing on the joy of the season and the happiness it would bring Angela. When the day arrived, the party was filled with festive cheer. Rachel's children had crafted handmade decorations, and my father-in-law, a former chef, had prepared a feast, a beautifully decorated cake and roast chicken, all expertly made. The children enjoyed themselves in the living room, reveling in the festive spirit, while the adults gathered in a smaller room, once Anthony's childhood space, where they chatted and shared drinks. Rachel's husband was absent, caught up with work, and Rachel, as usual, seemed to avoid me, a sentiment I mirrored. When it was time for the gift exchange, Angela eagerly handed her chosen presents to Rachel's daughter, who received them with genuine delight. It became clear that Rachel's demand for pricey gifts wasn't shared by her children, who were thrilled with Angela's thoughtful selection. The exchange continued with laughter and joy, following a familiar game where music played and the children passed around gifts until the music stopped. A hiccup occurred during the party when it appeared a gift was missing, causing confusion among the children. As I searched through the scattered toys and snacks, Rachel suddenly stormed into the room, her frustration boiling over. She turned her anger on Angela, accusing her of misplacing the gift and demanding we leave immediately. Her outburst was both shocking and revealing, exposing the bitterness she held and causing a stir among everyone present. Despite the commotion, it became clear that the heart of the celebration, the children and their genuine enjoyment of the simple joy of gift-giving, was what truly mattered. The incident with Rachel underscored the stark contrast in our values and priorities, but it also highlighted the importance of understanding and compassion, qualities that seemed completely absent from Rachel's approach to the holiday gathering. In a surprising twist, it was revealed that Rachel had hidden a gift meant for Angela, only to dramatically reject it in front of everyone. She criticized the present Angela had so thoughtfully prepared, dismissing it as unworthy and insisting that we leave for failing to meet her high standards. The scene was heartbreaking as Angela's carefully chosen earrings lay scattered on the floor, being picked up by other children while she stood in stunned silence, tears threatening to fall. At 10, such rejection was a crushing blow, and Rachel seemed almost pleased with the distress she had caused. But then, something unexpected happened. My father-in-law, usually calm and reserved, intervened with an intensity none of us had anticipated. He passionately defended Angela, scolding Rachel for her cruelty in a way I had never seen before. Even my mother-in-law, who had joined in the mockery earlier, fell silent under his reproach. It turned out that my father-in-law and Anthony, who had abstained from drinking, had witnessed the entire ordeal. Anthony had shared with his father Rachel's unreasonable demands for expensive brand-name gifts, and my father-in-law, disheartened by her materialism, seized the opportunity to address the issue. Amidst the tension, Rachel's children began to show empathy for Angela, offering comfort despite their mother's objections. Rachel, panic rising, tried to pull them away, fearing they might be influenced by Angela's perceived poverty, but the children ignored her, rallying around Angela in a quiet protest against the behavior of their mother and grandmother. This unexpected show of solidarity left Rachel and my mother-in-law stunned, clearly shocked by the children's compassion and sense of justice. Seeing an opportunity to teach a valuable lesson, my father-in-law gathered the children and shared a story from Rachel's past. He spoke of how Rachel had always been drawn to materialism, seeking out jobs that focused on luxury and appearances rather than substance. He explained how she had worked in environments that glorified designer brands, fueling her obsession with status symbols. His story served as a poignant reminder of the values we choose to live by and the consequences of those choices, offering a moment of reflection amidst the chaos of the party. Rachel had struggled financially for years, trying to maintain her expensive tastes despite her limited income. It wasn't until her third year of university, when my father-in-law discovered her secret job at a nightclub, that her facade began to crack. Faced with the threat of being disowned, Rachel left the job. This was, according to my father-in-law, the only time he had ever raised his voice at her. Afterward, Rachel took a job as a supermarket cashier before finding work at an office where she met her future husband. Even after marriage, however, her addiction to luxury remained, often leading to conflicts with her husband, who believed in living within one's means. The gift suggestions she made for us were, in truth, things she wanted for herself, not gifts for others. When confronted about her lavish lifestyle despite her part-time salary, Rachel claimed she could manage it by working extra shifts. However, her defense crumbled when my father-in-law exposed her significant debt, leaving her speechless and deflated. The revelation cast a shadow over the Christmas party, prompting us to leave early to shield the children from what had become an uncomfortable and unpleasant situation. On our way home, we bought Angela her favorite stuffed animal and quietly celebrated as a family, focusing on what truly mattered, love and togetherness. Months later, we learned that Rachel's marriage had ended in divorce after her husband discovered her hidden debts, including the cancellation of their children's education insurance due to her reckless spending. This led to a rift with his family, and eventually, Rachel was disowned. Since then, Rachel's children, now teenagers, chose to live with their father. Rachel, facing legal action for alimony and child support, struggled to make ends meet. Despite her challenges, her ex-husband ensured their children were financially supported, though raising 3 kids alone was no easy task. Seeing an opportunity to help, I considered assisting with the children's education, leveraging my research into online learning. Anthony, who had always had a natural rapport with children and had previously helped them with their studies, agreed to support them online at their father's request. This not only provided educational support but also helped strengthen the bond between our families, offering a glimmer of hope and unity amidst the challenges we were all facing. 9 months had passed since the divorce, and yet Rachel continued to send angry messages, refusing to take responsibility. She lashed out at Anthony and even her own children, claiming that her efforts to raise them went unappreciated. She insisted they would regret their decisions, calling the divorce a grave injustice. Rachel had since moved back into her parents' home, where, despite her erratic behavior, my mother-in-law remained unwavering in her support. This shift in my mother-in-law's attitude, from once scolding Rachel to now defending her every action, raised concerns, especially for my father-in-law, who sensed something was wrong. Driven by his suspicions, my father-in-law began investigating discreetly, and soon enough, he uncovered troubling evidence. He urged us to visit, and after months of rare visits, Anthony and I made our way to my in-laws' house. Our visits had become few and far between, as my father-in-law preferred to come to us. Arriving at a home that once exuded warmth and festive cheer, we were struck by its somber atmosphere. As we entered, we stumbled upon documents revealing debts incurred under my father-in-law's name, something that left us baffled. Knowing his cautious and frugal nature, Rachel and my mother-in-law returned home to find us sifting through the evidence of their financial mismanagement. Confronted with the truth, my father-in-law immediately intervened, separating Anthony from an agitated Rachel and exposing the extent of their financial ruin. It was revealed that, after exhausting her own credit, Rachel had racked up debts under her father's name, and that my mother-in-law had squandered their retirement savings on lavish expenditures alongside Rachel. The savings my father-in-law, a dedicated and careful worker, had painstakingly accumulated over the years for a comfortable retirement, nearly $2.5 million, had been drained in just 4 years, leaving them with an astounding $2.8 million in debt. Rachel and my mother-in-law tried to deflect blame, pointing fingers at Rachel's ex-husband and offering a string of unfounded excuses, but my father-in-law, armed with undeniable evidence, methodically dismantled their arguments. In a decisive move, he presented my mother-in-law with a divorce form, declaring that being associated with her had been his life's regret. He also disowned Rachel as his daughter. The sight of the divorce document sent my mother-in-law into a panic, marking a turning point in a situation that had long been marred by denial and blame-shifting. The revelation, and the subsequent actions, highlighted the deep fractures within the family, caused by unchecked desires and financial irresponsibility. In the aftermath of the confrontation, my mother-in-law tearfully begged Rachel to apologize, but Rachel remained firm, refusing to admit her wrongdoings. The situation escalated until my father-in-law, having had enough, decided to leave. Rachel, once defiant, suddenly became anxious, realizing the full weight of her actions too late. That evening, as Anthony and I tried to unwind at home, Rachel unexpectedly appeared at our doorstep well past a reasonable hour. Anthony, attempting to handle the situation, was met with Rachel's fury. It was clear that, after a fallout with my mother-in-law, Rachel had nowhere else to go. Her attempts to seek refuge at her ex-husband's house had failed, leading her to our doorstep. Unwilling to allow her in, Anthony firmly refused her entry and threatened to call the police if she didn't leave. Despite his refusal, Rachel persisted, causing a disturbance until we had no choice but to follow through on our warning. The police arrived, and Rachel was escorted away, her angry exclamations echoing in the night. Over time, it became evident that Rachel's unwillingness to reflect on her actions had severed her relationships. Approaching 60, her chances of changing her deeply ingrained habits seemed slim. The fallout had left her and my mother-in-law in a strange, isolated relationship, both burdened with debt. My father-in-law, thankful for the support we had shown, kept us updated on their situation. In an ironic twist, my mother-in-law managed to pay alimony to my father-in-law, likely sinking further into debt in the process. Despite these hardships, my father-in-law began to rebuild his life, working as a taxi driver and finding a new place to live. Meanwhile, Rachel's children, now teenagers, maintained a close relationship with their grandfather, which was a rare positive outcome in this tumultuous situation. This experience led me to reflect on the true value of money and material possessions. The following Christmas, spent at my father-in-law's new home, was a testament to this shift in perspective. Gifts were chosen with care, not for their brand names, but for the joy they would bring. This experience reinforced the importance of values and character over material wealth. As Angela stays close with Rachel's children, I continue to watch over them, hoping they will learn from their mother's mistakes and choose a path of humility, gratitude, and integrity, valuing relationships above fleeting material satisfaction.